If I could reach back through the fabric of time to touch the shoulder of my younger self, I would whisper a truth that would alter the very trajectory of everything. But I know, with the quiet certainty of hindsight, that you wouldn't fully grasp it then. Not yet. Not while the world stretches before you like an endless ribbon of promise. You move through your days with the innocent conviction that time is a boundless reservoir, that life unfolds as a predictable, linear journey. You believe that joy, fulfillment, and a sense of purpose are distant milestones, waiting patiently at some future bend in the road, just beyond the horizon you're perpetually chasing. But let me tell you, from this vantage point where light and shadow dance with equal intensity, the path is not infinite. There will come a dawn, sooner than your eager heart can comprehend, when you will stir from slumber and recognize an undeniable shift. You are no longer hurtling towards a nebulous future. Instead, you find yourself standing squarely within it, and in that precise, poignant moment, the gilded trophies you once yearned for, the fleeting validations you thought would bring boundless happiness, will begin to lose their luster. The phantom fears that once clutched at your spirit, the dread of perceived loss, will dissolve into mere whispers. The most profound question that will bloom within you, demanding an answer that reverberates through your very core, won't be about the unwritten chapters ahead, but about the profound, unyielding truth of who you truly are. You see, the journey we embark on, this intricate dance between becoming and being, is not one we navigate alone. Across the vast tapestry of human experience, certain luminous souls have traversed these inner landscapes, illuminating paths that most of us, in our hurried pace, fail to perceive. They understood the subtle currents of the human spirit, the hidden springs of wisdom that lie beneath the surface of everyday awareness. They offer not prescriptive dogma, but gentle invitations to introspection, echoes from the depths of timeless wisdom. They speak of the unseen architecture of the self, the intricate interplay of light and shadow, conscious and unconscious, that shapes our reality. Consider the ancient teachings that speak of the self as a microcosm of the cosmos, mirroring the universal dance of creation and dissolution. Just as the universe expands and contracts, so too does our inner world, urging us towards a greater unfolding. These profound philosophies, woven into the fabric of cultures across millennia, suggest that the quest for external validation is often a distraction from an infinitely richer inner pilgrimage. The fleeting joys of accumulation or superficial connection, while momentarily comforting, ultimately leave a resonant echo of longing. This yearning is not a flaw. It is the soul's persistent whisper, a divine discontent nudging us towards our authentic essence. The wisdom keepers remind us that the map of our life is not drawn by external forces, but etched into our very being. It's a blueprint for our highest potential, a unique melody that only we can truly play. Yet, from the earliest stirrings of awareness, we are often handed other people's maps, blueprints drafted by societal expectations, familial legacies, or cultural narratives. We absorb these external directives, internalizing them as our own truth, and begin to trace paths that lead us further and further away from the vibrant pulse of our authentic nature. We make choices that feel alien to our deepest knowing. We forge relationships that drain our vitality. We don masks, elaborate facades designed to fit into spaces where our true selves were never meant to reside. And with the inexorable passage of time, this inner dissonance, this subtle betrayal of self, transmutes into a profound and pervasive ache, a dull anxiety, a gnawing restlessness, an inexplicable apathy that blankets even moments of apparent success. This inner map, this blueprint of the spirit, is not a mere poetic flourish. It is a living reality, a sacred scroll unfolding within us. It chronicles the archetypal patterns that underpin all human experience, the universal symbols that resonate across cultures and epochs, speaking a language beyond words. The profound truth revealed by these timeless inquiries is both humbling and profoundly liberating. Much of our suffering isn't arbitrary or a cruel twist of fate. It arises from our unwitting disregard of this inner compass. It stems from living outward, perpetually responding to external stimuli, rather than turning inward to heed the subtle calls of our own soul. It is the consequence of following inherited patterns, even as our deepest being yearns for a different, more resonant frequency. If you find yourself adrift, feeling directionless, if you sense an unseen current pulling you down even as you strive to stay afloat, know this: you are not broken. Your struggle is not a deficiency. It is, in fact, an invitation, an urgent, undeniable summons to embark upon the most vital journey of your existence, the journey of integration, the sacred process of reuniting with the deepest, most authentic expression of who you are. If you are weary of the pretense, tired of performing for an audience that never truly sees you, tired of the hollow echo where your truest self should be, then understand that you are not alone, and you are certainly not beyond repair. Your suffering is not a flaw, it is a signpost, a profound, sacred call, and if you summon the courage to answer it, to plunge into the depths and confront the unknown within, you will discover that what seemed like weakness was merely a necessary detour, and what appeared as darkness was simply the unlit threshold to your own radiant light. This moment, this message, is an invitation. A map placed gently into courageous hands can transform an entire life. The only question that remains is, are you ready to unfold it? Imagine, for a moment, an inner territory vast and enigmatic, a landscape within your own being. It's a realm filled with symbolic forests, where ancient whispers echo through timeless trees, with emotional abysses that hold forgotten sorrows and unacknowledged fears, with mountains of forgotten wisdom that stand silent and grand, and with subterranean rivers of desire and dread that flow through unseen caverns. Now, imagine that this intricate, mysterious territory can be explored, understood, even mapped. This is the profound offering of those who charted the inner cosmology of the soul, a true cartography of the human psyche, not constructed with compasses and satellites, but with the raw material of dreams, the deep resonant echoes of myth, the universal language of symbols, and the poignant, undeniable suffering inherent in the human condition. For these explorers of the interior, the soul's map is not a rational, logical, or linear construct. It is a dynamic tapestry woven from living symbols that emerge spontaneously from the profound depths of the unconscious. Contrary to the simplistic narratives we often absorb, the psyche is not merely a scattered collection of thoughts and feelings. It possesses an inherent, magnificent structure. At its core lies the true self, the organizing principle of psychic totality, the inner sun around which all else orbits. Surrounding this core are various aspects: a social facade, the persona, through which we interact with the outer world; a vast field of hidden conflicts and unacknowledged parts, the shadow; and internal figures that embody the inner feminine and masculine principles, often referred to as anima and animus. It is from the intricate, often tension-filled interplay of these internal forces that our most profound dilemmas, our unresolved traumas, our most vivid dreams, and our deepest quests for meaning arise. The ego, that familiar I you believe yourself to be, the center of your conscious awareness, is merely the starting point. It's a necessary anchor in the swirling currents of reality, organizing your perceptions and navigating the external world. But it is only a single chamber within the vast mansion of your soul, a small, yet vital, room surrounded by colossal forces it neither controls nor fully comprehends. This is why so many of us feel lost, adrift in a sea of confusion. We attempt to make life-altering decisions based solely on this superficial self, disconnected from the magnificent totality of our own psyche, unaware that far deeper currents operate beneath every choice, every inexplicable blockage, every fleeting impulse. The understanding of this inner architecture emerged from profound acts of self-exploration, a courageous plunge into the hidden realms of personal dreams, visions, and experiences. In this deep dive, universal symbolic patterns began to surface, archetypal images that appeared not only in personal inner landscapes, but also resonated across ancient mythologies, spiritual traditions, folk tales, and works of art throughout history. These archetypes are the fundamental elements of the soul's map. They are like ancestral waypoints, universal guides that mark the key passages of the human journey: birth, death, love, loss, renewal, the quest for truth. Each of us embarks on this unique path, yet we all pass through the same timeless portals, encountering the same fundamental forces of transformation, But crucially, this map is not merely for understanding, it is a living instrument for transformation, guiding the process of individuation, the central journey of profound spiritual and psychological growth. We are called not merely to exist as reactive, limited egos, but to blossom into integrated, whole beings, to become someone who lives authentically in profound resonance with their deepest essence. This process is far from facile. It demands a courageous confrontation with the shadow, a gentle detachment from the restrictive roles of the persona, and a willingness to face the vast, often unsettling expanse of the unconscious. Yet it is the only true path to a life infused with genuine meaning and vitality. When we ignore this inner map, life often devolves into a repetitive cycle of errors, frustrations, and a pervasive sense of emptiness. But when we begin, even tentatively, to decipher its profound language, we start to recognize that every symptom, every crisis, every ache is not a punishment, but a message, and that message always emanates from within. For the soul, in its infinite wisdom, does not shout, it whispers, and those who fail to learn the subtle language of the soul's whispers often find themselves deafened by the loud, undeniable cries of the body, the relentless grip of anxiety, the pervasive fog of depression, the profound, aching loss of meaning. Now that you begin to grasp the majestic structure of this inner map, an inevitable question arises: where do I stand on this map? How can I discern if I am walking a path aligned with my true self, or if I am merely wandering further astray? This is precisely what we must now explore, the unmistakable signs that indicate a deviation from your authentic journey, the subtle, invisible symptoms, the persistent emotional echoes, the repetitive patterns that signal a growing distance from the truth of who you are, and how to begin the slow, deliberate, and courageous walk back home. Have you ever paused to consider why so many today find themselves entangled in the relentless grip of anxiety, shrouded by the pervasive fog of depression, or consumed by an inexplicable exhaustion, even when their external lives appear to be a tapestry of success? Why do countless individuals, seemingly blessed with abundance, experience a profound and unsettling emptiness within? The answer, echoed by the great navigators of the inner world, lies in a fundamental truth. Most of us are not living an authentic life. Instead, we are living a borrowed one. We adhere to scripts we did not author, pursue ambitions we have never truly questioned, and lose ourselves in identities handed to us, rather than chosen from the crucible of our own being. Modern existence, in its relentless pursuit of external validation, has forged a system of values that relentlessly rewards appearance, performance, and ceaseless productivity. From our earliest moments, we are subtly conditioned to compete, to win, to please. We are told, with increasing insistence, who we should be, what we ought to desire, and how we must behave to be deemed acceptable. The profound consequence of this conditioning, we construct a socially palatable persona, an outward shell, that grows ever more distant from our authentic core. We become unwitting experts in performance, and accidental amateurs in the art of living a truly resonant life. This subtle, yet pervasive, conditioning begins in the tender years of childhood. We learn, often unconsciously, that to feel too deeply is a weakness, that making mistakes is an unforgivable transgression, that to reveal our vulnerability is to invite danger. We repress the nascent stirrings of our authentic self, pushing parts of our shadow into the unlit corners of our psyche, all to avoid the sting of rejection. We stifle our innate creative impulses, fearing that to express them fully would be to appear strange or unconventional. We inadvertently exchange our deepest desires for the often unspoken expectations of others. And so, brick by subtle brick, we drift further from our sacred center. By the time we awaken to this internal exile, we often find ourselves unsure of who we truly are. Having become intimately familiar only with the carefully curated version we learn to present. In adulthood, this divergence intensifies, often reaching a crescendo in what many describe as a midlife crisis, though it is more accurately an awakening. The relentless societal pressure to conform to a predefined model of success becomes an oppressive weight. A glittering career, a stable relationship, an enviable social status, an impeccable outward appearance The soul, in this relentless pursuit, is often forgotten, its quiet murmurs drowned out by the clamor of external demands. Yet, the true self never truly disappears. It merely alters the way it manifests. And when its whispers are persistently ignored, it begins to shout. These profound, often unsettling cries manifest as symptoms: the relentless grip of anxiety, the crushing weight of existential malaise, the subtle pull of addictions that promise fleeting solace, the inexplicable fatigue that no amount of rest can dispel, the hollowness of relationships that lack genuine connection, the creeping sense of being disengaged from life itself. The great insights into the human spirit view these manifestations not as failures, but as urgent calls from the soul, sacred alerts, signaling that we are living off-center, profoundly disconnected from our inner truth. We find ourselves in a world that idolizes extroversion, superficial charisma, and constant visibility. Yet, not every soul is born to be constantly seen. Some are born with the quiet gift of deep observation, others with the profound impulse to create from the depths of their being. Still others are destined to heal, to hold sacred space in stillness, to witness with compassionate eyes. The profound tragedy lies in this: by standardizing an ideal life, modern culture inadvertently transmutes unique, inherent talents into perceived flaws. The introspective soul is labeled too shy. The deeply sensitive individual is deemed fragile. The reflective thinker is dismissed as slow. And in this insidious process, entire archetypal energies are stifled, left to languish in the inner shadows. The natural healer is ignored. The authentic artist is ridiculed. The mystic is relegated to the realm of the absurd. Worse still, our society doesn't merely ignore the unconscious, it actively fears it. And what a culture fears, it often seeks to pathologize, to categorize as an illness. The devastating result is an entire generation that feels profoundly broken simply because they cannot contort themselves into a mold that was never designed for their unique, radiant essence. But there is a luminous path out of this labyrinth. The ancient wisdom traditions and modern psychology inspired by them teach that suffering is often the crucible of healing. It forces us to pause, to turn our gaze inward, to question the very foundations of our existence. In that moment of profound self-inquiry, if we summon the courage, we can begin the sacred process of returning to the true self, what is often called individuation. And this profound return begins with a fundamental understanding: your symptoms are not failures. They are compasses. They are powerful, often painful, signals that, if listened to with profound attention, can guide you back to the very heart of your soul. In the next part of this journey, we will delve into what it truly means to be off the path. We will explore the invisible signs, the emotional echoes, the recurring patterns that indicate your spirit is drifting from its truth, and crucially, how to begin the sacred walk back home. To be off the path isn't merely about making a series of poor decisions or facing external setbacks. From the profound spiritual perspective, it signifies a life lived in profound disconnection from your essence, your deepest, most authentic truth. And this disconnection, inevitably, comes at a cost. Your soul possesses an innate wisdom. It knows, with an undeniable certainty, when you deviate from your center. And even if your conscious mind attempts to rationalize, to pretend, or to simply ignore, the signs will invariably emerge. In their initial whispers, they manifest as subtle shifts, a pervasive restlessness, an inexplicable boredom that gnaws at the edges of your contentment, small, nagging discomforts that defy easy explanation. But if you persist in silencing these gentle murmurs, the soul, in its insistent yearning for alignment, begins to shout. And these insistent cries grow loud enough to disrupt, even to paralyze, the very flow of your life. The earliest symptoms are often felt in the subtle currents of your emotional landscape, a deep-seated fatigue that no amount of rest can dispel. It's not physical exhaustion, but a weariness of the spirit, an anxiety that lacks any concrete cause, a free-floating apprehension that hovers like a shadow, even when external circumstances appear serene. A pervasive, melancholic sadness that inexplicably surfaces in moments when all should be well. When logic dictates contentment, you might have achieved every external measure of success: a thriving career, a stable relationship, an impeccably organized routine, and yet an inexplicable emptiness persists. It feels as though something vital within you is slowly, silently fading, as if life unfolds on a distant stage and you are merely a detached spectator, watching rather than living. Then come the repetitive patterns, relationships that consistently unravel in the same painful ways, cycles of self-sabotage that recur with disheartening predictability, decisions that seem to negate each other, leaving you in a perpetual state of flux. You feel trapped in a ceaseless loop, endlessly circling within a labyrinth whose design was conceived by another, a blueprint inherited rather than chosen. This phenomenon occurs because, in our disconnection from the self, we often surrender agency to autonomous complexes, fragments of unresolved emotional energy that exert an unseen control over our psyche, compelling us to replay the same errors, even when we consciously know the destructive outcomes. It's like being compelled to watch a play whose tragic ending you already know, yet finding yourself unable to avert your gaze or alter its course. A pervasive sense of inner falseness is another potent indicator that you are off the path. You might diligently maintain an impeccable facade of normalcy, yet deep within, you carry the unsettling awareness that you are merely playing a role, enacting a performance for an unseen audience, ultimately lying to your own soul. Life, once vibrant and full of possibility, begins to lose its intrinsic color, its passionate resonance, its profound meaning, and paradoxically, the more desperately you attempt to distract yourself, to immerse yourself in activity, to accelerate your pace, the more starkly evident this inner chasm becomes. Life loses its flavor. Days bleed into one another, indistinguishable and uninspired, all because you are living outwardly, but dying inwardly. But there is something even more profound, a subtle yet powerful communication from the depths. When you are disconnected from the true self, your dreams begin to shift. They become more intensely symbolic, more vivid, often more unsettling. The unconscious, in its ceaseless endeavor to guide you back to wholeness, starts sending urgent messages. The wisdom traditions have long revered dreams as direct communications from the self, profound letters from the soul. The greater the internal distance, the more urgent and explicit the dream content becomes. Recurring images of falling, of blocked paths, of abandoned homes, of menacing, shadowy figures. All of these are symbolic expressions of a soul desperately attempting to call you back to your center. But to comprehend them requires profound sensitivity, and to follow their guidance demands unwavering courage. And why does all of this unfold? Because the self, the unifying totality of your soul, possesses an inherent, unwavering purpose to guide you towards becoming the fullest, most authentic expression of who you are, and it will not rest until that sacred unfolding is realized. This profound process, often referred to as individuation, is rarely comfortable. It is inherently demanding, deeply transformative, and profoundly challenging, for it necessitates a courageous confrontation with all that has been suppressed, your shadow, your deepest fears, your hidden desires, your forgotten potentials, and above all, it demands a willingness to step into the unknown, into that which you are not yet, but are destined to become. So, if you find yourself adrift, repeating worn-out patterns, emotionally depleted, or living a life that feels profoundly alien to your spirit, understand this. This is the call. It is not a punishment, but an invitation. You are not being condemned. You are being awakened. And it is precisely at this juncture that the next stage of the journey begins. How to commence the sacred walk back to the self. How to utilize this profound inner map, not as a theoretical construct, but as a practical guide to reclaim meaning, to reconnect with your authentic essence, and to transmute the profound ache of dis-ease into a clear, unwavering direction. In the next section, we will explore the timeless tools and principles offered by those who traverse these inner realms, empowering you to transform suffering into profound awareness and disorientation into luminous clarity. You now grasp that there exists an innate map within you, that the soul possesses a magnificent, intricate structure. You understand how societal conditioning often leads us to disregard this profound inner compass, and how the very symptoms you experience are, in truth, sacred compasses disguised as discomfort. Now, the inevitable, yearning question arises. How do I find my way back? How do I rediscover the path to my authentic self? How do I transcend the superficiality of the persona and descend into the vibrant heart of my deepest being? The answer, as with all profound truths, is not simplistic, for the journey of individuation is exquisitely unique to each soul. Yet, the timeless wisdom traditions and the profound psychological frameworks they inspire have bequeathed to us a treasury of principles, practices, and symbolic keys that serve as invaluable navigational tools. They understood that the process of returning to one's center cannot be achieved through mere logical reasoning or Herculean acts of willpower. For what is at stake here is not a problem to be solved, but a soul patiently awaiting to be truly heard. The first and most ancient tool is the sacred practice of dream observation. The wisdom traditions, from ancient shamans to modern psychologies, universally recognize dreams as spontaneous, potent manifestations of the unconscious, symbolic messages sent directly from the deepest self. They serve as profound revelations of hidden truths, unconscious patterns, suppressed desires, and crucially, as indications of the true path forward. But to comprehend their profound language, one must learn to decipher the symbolic tongue of the soul. Dreams do not speak in literal words or linear narratives. They communicate through metaphor, through vivid, resonant images, through powerful, often elusive, atmospheres. A collapsing pathway in a dream might symbolize the dismantling of a limiting belief. A wild animal pursuing you might represent a repressed impulse or a raw, untamed potential yearning for integration. Each dream is a precious fragment of your unique inner map. Keeping a dream journal is a vital first step, allowing you to trace recurring themes and symbols, thereby giving voice to the unconscious wisdom that tirelessly strives to guide you. The second powerful tool is active imagination, a technique developed to foster a direct, conscious dialogue with the internal figures of the psyche. It involves deliberately allowing images and impulses from the unconscious to manifest in your waking state through sustained focus, writing, drawing, visualization, or even movement. It is a profound method for encountering your shadow, your anima, or your animus, and engaging with them not as abstract concepts, but as living energies, understanding what they are attempting to communicate. Active imagination is not mere fantasy or wishful thinking. It is an act of deep listening, a courageous willingness to stand before the internal unknown with profound presence and open curiosity. It is about creating sacred space for the unconscious to reveal itself not as an adversary, but as a wise, often challenging ally. This practice cultivates a direct, intimate relationship with your inner world, allowing you to receive guidance and insights that forever elude the confines of the rational mind. Another essential path is the courageous confrontation with the shadow. This means turning towards everything you reject, deny, or push away within yourself. Without judgment, without flight, without disguise. It means acknowledging the dark impulses, the hidden resentments, the uncomfortable vulnerabilities you meticulously conceal even from yourself. But crucially, it also means recognizing the forgotten talents, the silenced desires, the stifled potentials that lie dormant within that same shadowy realm. The shadow is not a monster to be vanquished. It is a vital, often misunderstood, piece of your soul crying out for recognition and integration. And without its conscious embrace, true individuation remains an elusive aspiration. This confrontation is often profoundly uncomfortable, for it challenges the very foundation of your self-perception. Yet, it is through this honest, unflinching engagement that true inner integration begins. Furthermore, it becomes necessary to comprehend the pervasive role of the persona and to consciously begin to dismantle its rigid hold. You must gently identify the masks you wear at work, within your relationships, on social media, and understand why they were constructed in the first place. The challenge is not in possessing a persona. We all do. The true problem arises when you believe that you are the mask, when you merge with the role to the exclusion of your authentic self. When you live identified with the persona, the true self becomes inaccessible, its wisdom obscured. As you begin to consciously peel away these layers of pretense, the true self begins to emerge, subtle at first, then increasingly resonant. This doesn't imply becoming socially inept. Rather, it signifies consciously choosing your social roles with authenticity, rather than being dictated by them. And of course, the integration of the anima and animus is profoundly essential. This requires a deep, receptive work of inner listening. For men, developing the anima means cultivating sensitivity, intuition, and an openness to the vast, mysterious currents of the unconscious. For women, integrating the animus means accessing deep, grounded reason, unwavering inner direction, and a healthy, assertive self-expression that arises from a place of wholeness, not aggression. When these fundamental psychic polarities are denied or suppressed, we tend to project our unfulfilled inner halves onto others, creating relationships that are often symbiotic, imbalanced, and founded on fantasy rather than authentic connection. But when they are gently integrated, we become whole, capable of a richer, more balanced, and profoundly authentic experience of life and relationships. Finally, weaving through this entire journey, there is one paramount element: inner silence. We find ourselves immersed in an era of relentless noise, a constant barrage of stimulation that fragments our attention and scatters our energy. Yet, it is precisely in the profound sanctuary of silence that the self whispers its deepest truths. Haste is the profound enemy of the soul. Individuation demands moments of pause, moments of deep, unwavering presence, moments of profound solitude, not as an escape from the world, but as a sacred spiritual practice. For it is only in the stillness of genuine inner quiet that we can truly hear ourselves, unfiltered by the clamor of external demands or internal chatter. This might involve the quietude of meditation, spending sacred time immersed in nature, or simply carving out dedicated moments of profound reflection within the rhythm of your day. These practices are not rigid recipes to be followed blindly. They are doors, they are tools, they are keys, and each soul must discover its own rhythm, its own unique timing, its own authentic way of walking this path. The only true requirement is an unyielding willingness to look within, deeply, honestly, radically. But even with these powerful tools, there lies a subtle snare, a common misconception that many encounter as they embark on this profound journey: the insidious belief that they must become someone else, that they must undergo a complete metamorphosis to attain wholeness. The wisdom traditions and the profound insights into the human spirit speak a different truth. The ultimate goal of individuation is not to become something new. It is, paradoxically, to become what you have always been, but perhaps had not yet consciously known. This leads us to the deepest, most transformative part of this journey: integration. The sacred moment when the fragmented parts begin to unite, and your true, authentic identity emerges, radiant and whole, from the crucible of chaos. We arrive now at the most decisive, the most sacred juncture of this entire journey: integration. Everything we have explored until this moment, the intricate architecture of the soul, the subtle detours from our authentic path, the poignant symptoms of disconnection, the timeless tools for returning, all converge upon this pivotal understanding. Integration is the profound process through which all that has been separated within you begins, at last, to reunite. It is the sacred alchemy where the lost fragments of the soul are meticulously gathered, where everything you have suppressed, meticulously hidden or inadvertently fragmented, begins its journey towards aligning with the undeniable truth of who you truly are. But what does it genuinely mean to integrate? Integration is not about eliminating what feels uncomfortable, nor is it a superficial attempt to purge yourself of negative feelings, or to transform into some idealized, impossibly perfect version of yourself. Such pursuits are often merely the ego, subtly disguised as spiritual aspiration, a new persona cloaked in the robes of perceived enlightenment. To truly integrate is to embrace, with radical acceptance, every single part that exists within you. It is to understand, with profound clarity, that light and shadow are not adversaries, but complementary forces, to indispensable sides of a single, magnificent coin. It is to recognize that weakness and strength do not cancel each other out, but rather exist in a delicate, powerful balance, each informing the other. It is to acknowledge that within you, the creator and the destroyer coexist, the wounded and the healer, the rebel, and the conformist, and only by consciously extending space, compassion, and presence to all of these internal voices can you finally discover your own authentic, resonant voice, the ancient wisdom, reflected in profound psychological insights, asserts that individuation is the lifelong process of becoming what one is. The seemingly simple statement conceals one of the most challenging, yet ultimately most rewarding, tasks of human existence. It demands the raw courage to shed the layers of comfort, to relinquish the false securities you've clung to for years. It requires you to consciously abandon the identities that have protected you, even as they confined you. It means ceasing the perpetual search for external answers, recognizing that the profound truths you seek can only be unearthed from the fertile soil of your own inner landscape. Integration occurs when you finally stop striving to be someone you're not and surrender with profound trust to the sacred work of becoming whole. It begins with awakened awareness when you recognize that you possess a persona, but you are not defined by it. When you behold your shadow, not as a monster, but as a misunderstood part of your essence. When you encounter your inner anima or animus and learn to listen to their subtle guidance. When you connect with the self, not as an abstract philosophical concept, but as a living, breathing, guiding presence within you. At this stage, life ceases to be a perpetual battlefield of internal oppositions and transforms into a vibrant space of harmonious dialogue between all your disparate parts. The profound effects of this inner evolution are far-reaching and deeply felt. The persistent grip of anxiety begins to loosen, not because you've mastered a technique to control it, but because it no longer needs to scream for your attention. Your relationships with others deepen and become more authentic as you cease projecting your unacknowledged inner fragments onto those around you. The relentless cycles of unconscious repetition dissolve, for there is now a conscious, guiding presence at the helm of your being, and that presence, integrated and whole, is truly you. To integrate is to heal, but not in a superficial, symptom-focused sense. It is to mend the deep, internal fissures caused by years of denial, of flight, of unconscious adaptation. It is to painstakingly rebuild the sacred bridge to your soul. It is to live with an unwavering sense of direction, not as someone frantically searching for a specific destination, but as someone who knows, with quiet certainty, from whence they came. It is to transmute pain into profound power, confusion into luminous clarity, and the pervasive ache of emptiness into a fertile, generative space from which new life can spring. But let me be profoundly clear, this sacred journey has no definitive end. Integration is not a static destination. It is a continuous process, a perpetual, dynamic dance between the conscious and the unconscious, between the known and the eternally mysterious. It is a lifelong commitment to listening, to learning, to evolving, to deepening your understanding of the boundless complexity of your own being. The self is not a fixed, immutable point. It is a dynamic, ever-unfolding center that continues to reveal itself throughout the entirety of your life. Every new challenge, every new crisis is not a setback, but a profound opportunity for deeper integration, for a more profound understanding of who you are and who you are continuously becoming. The unlived life is not a condemnation. It is, at its core, a choice, and the choice to embark upon this journey of individuation, to explore the sacred map of your own soul, to integrate all your fragmented parts, is the most courageous and profoundly rewarding decision you will ever make. It is the path to becoming truly, authentically, irrevocably you. Reaching a state of integration is not a final summit, from which you simply gaze upon your completed work and then rest. Rather, it is an ever-unfolding dance, a dynamic, continuous conversation between your conscious awareness and the boundless, mysterious depths of your unconscious. You have, in essence, begun to decipher the sacred map of your soul, learned to recognize its primary landmarks, and embarked upon the courageous journey of returning to your authentic essence. But this return is not a single act, it is a profound and sustained commitment. The wisdom traditions, ancient and modern, speak of sovereignty, not as an external dominion over others, but as the ultimate mastery over one's own inner kingdom. An undisciplined life, a life lived out of alignment, is often a life lived in perpetual reaction, reacting to endless notifications, reacting to the incessant demands of others, reacting to the fleeting allure of immediate gratification. It is a life where your precious time and finite energy are relentlessly colonized by external forces, leaving you feeling perpetually depleted and disconnected. But the truly integrated, disciplined life is a life lived in declaration. It is a conscious, unwavering affirmation of your deepest will, a living testament to your sacred commitment to your own unique becoming. This inner sovereignty does not imply rigidity or isolation. On the contrary, it cultivates the inner strength and unwavering clarity necessary to align your every action with your deepest values and most profound aspiration. From this place of wholeness, you can then engage with the world and contribute to it from a place of abundance rather than scarcity or need. When you are sovereign within, you do not frantically seek external validation. Instead, you radiate an intrinsic worth. You do not chase fleeting opportunities. You create them, drawing them into your sphere from a place of deep alignment. This ultimate transformation culminates when you realize that inner discipline, in its truest form, is not a burdensome imposition, but a profound liberation. It emancipates you from the tyranny of your lower impulses, from the gnawing shame of unkept promises, and from the quiet, pervasive regret of a life unlived. It empowers you to become the conscious architect of your own destiny, faithfully fulfilling the sacred contract you made with yourself, long before the world began to dictate who you should be. What subtle, hidden agreements still govern your life whispered to you from the depths of your unconscious? What profound architecture can you begin to construct today to lovingly support your future integrated self? And how will you, in this very moment, declare your inner sovereignty by embracing the necessary friction of growth, choosing inner discipline not as a tiresome chore, but as a sacred return to your truest, most potent self? The answer lies not in waiting for an elusive surge of motivation, but in the quiet, unwavering commitment to be the person who honors their deepest word to oneself. Time does not merely pass, it accumulates. Every moment of delay, every subtle postponement of your inner discipline, inscribes itself into the very architecture of your life, not merely as a missed opportunity, but as a subtle yet significant brick in the burgeoning structure of regret. You are not simply losing moments. You are being irrevocably shaped by that loss. The ancient wisdom echoes across millennia, asserting a profound truth. You are what you do, not what you say you will do. This simple yet stark pronouncement should resonate deeply within you, not because it is harsh, but because it holds up the most brutal, unvarnished mirror to your reality. You don't need external validation to confirm who you are. You are already proving it, irrefutably, with every action you take, every choice you make, every moment you decide to engage or to retreat. And the quiet tragedy is that most souls never truly notice the subtle, almost imperceptible drift. They awaken one day, perhaps a decade or more down the winding path, to the startling realization that the person they've become is a stranger, a distant echo of the one they once admired, the one they aspired to be. This person is a version, sculpted by delay, shaped by hesitation, molded by narratives that once felt like profound wisdom, but were, in essence, fear in disguise. You were not born with a predisposition for an action or avoidance. You were subtly, perhaps imperceptibly, conditioned to distrust your own boundless power. And for years, you meticulously softened the sharp edges of your ambition, polishing them down until they threatened no one, not even yourself. Why? Because true inner discipline, the kind that radiates from a place of deep authenticity, it shifts the very atmosphere of a room. It isn't loud or boastful, but it carries an undeniable weight, a resonant gravitas. And that profound weight, that quiet authority, can be deeply unsettling to those who have not yet dared to ascend to their own highest potential. This is often why you began to hide, why you chose to retract, to withdraw. You sought to remain close to those who were still slumbering, because awakening, truly awakening, sometimes demands the courage to walk alone. But what if this very solitude, this quietude, is not a punishment, but a passage? What if your moments of aloneness are not a consequence of abandonment, but a necessary rite of initiation? You must grasp a profound truth that most souls will never fully realize until it is too late. Every time you betray your inherent potential for the fleeting comfort of the familiar, you are, in a profound spiritual sense, practicing death, not physical cessation, but an insidious spiritual erosion, the slow, gradual weakening of the inner fire, the quiet fading of the will, the resigned, silent surrender of a being who once held hunger in their eyes, but now finds only a repertoire of eloquent excuses. The profound explorers of human meaning did not believe that we discover purpose by chasing ephemeral happiness. They believed, with unwavering conviction, that we unearth it through confrontation, by gazing directly into the eyes of the dragon, the chaos, the perceived failure, the undeniable pain, and stepping into its presence with open arms. Inner discipline is your sword in this confrontation. It does not magically eliminate fear. Rather, it imbues you with something infinitely more potent than fear. It provides direction. Every human being is, in some profound sense, disciplined. The only question is, what are you disciplined for? Some are meticulously disciplined in their distractions, masters of avoidance. Others are rigidly disciplined in their addictions, their compulsive patterns. Still others are disciplined in the voices of doubt they inherited, voices they have never truly questioned or challenged. But remarkably few are disciplined for their becoming, for the conscious, courageous unfolding of their highest self. And if you yearn to be among those few, you must accept a fundamental truth. Discipline is not a phase. It is not a tiresome chore. It is a profound way of relating to time itself. Every time you choose what feels good now over what will build you later, you are, in essence, communicating to time, I do not respect you. And time, like any sacred force, responds in kind. It begins to turn against you. You feel perpetually behind. You feel utterly stuck. You feel as though everything is slipping through your grasp, precisely because you have never truly honored the precious gift you were given. But once you realign, once you begin to live in profound reverence for time, your days begin to transform, not externally at first, but internally. you begin to feel carried by a profound rhythm, by an undeniable purpose, by the quiet, resonant calm that settles over your being when your life is no longer a mere reaction, but a sacred ritual. And this, ultimately, is what inner discipline becomes at its highest expression, not an act of mere willpower, not a forced exertion of strength, but a ritual, a sacred, unbroken rhythm between your present self and the magnificent future you have solemnly sworn to construct. You awaken not because you must, but because you are granted the sacred opportunity to honor your inner vow. You train your body, not to punish it, but to remember your inherent strength, your resilience. You nourish yourself with intentionality, not from vanity, but because your physical vessel is the living temple of your deepest resolve. Everything begins to align. Everything begins to echo your profoundest truth. And one day, the radiant being you once dreamed of becoming is no longer a distant vision. It is your very reflection. But let me be clear, this profound transformation will not unfold in a mere week. It will not spring from a single, isolated breakthrough. Inner discipline is not built by fleeting motivation or temporary hype. It is meticulously forged in the crucible of grief. Yes, grief. Because to become the person you are truly meant to be, you must allow the other self to die. The one who consistently dishonors their own word. The one who hides behind the comforting illusion of someday. The one who feels a subtle, pervasive emptiness each night because they know, deep down, they have evaded their truth once more. You must bury that self, not with guilt, not with judgment, but with profound honor. For that self did its very best. It kept you safe. It brought you to this very threshold. But now, its time has gracefully concluded. And when you finally grieve that version of yourself, when you cease fighting it and thank it for its role in your journey, you liberate the immense energy you once expended on pretense. And with that liberated energy, you begin to build. You build mornings that begin in clarity, not chaos. You construct routines that root you, even when the current of desire pulls you away. You fashion a schedule that does not trap you, but ultimately frees you. For order is not your enemy. It is your sacred armor, and the more chaotic the world becomes, the more invaluable a calm, structured, and centered being becomes within it. You become that being, and it begins now, not next Monday, not after another perceived failure. Now, because this very moment, this breath, this pulsating beat of your heart, this uncomfortable truth stirring within you, this is your sacred initiation. You do not need another reason. You do not need to feel ready. You are already worthy of living a disciplined, integrated life. You have simply forgotten. The timeless wisdom, echoed through the ages, asserts that wholeness is not attained by adding more to yourself, but by embracing the fullness of who you already are. Even the parts you have desperately tried to avoid, even the parts that felt lazy, weak, chaotic, you are not here to flee them. You are here to lead them, to integrate them into your sovereign self. And when you achieve this, when your inner home is finally in profound order, you will not only feel immensely powerful, you will feel, at last, utterly pacified. For true inner discipline is not loud,